Guys, I love uncomfortable facts. Uncomfortable facts. Because uncomfortable facts brings you closer to the truth. And the truth ultimately brings you closer to God, right? So, Draymond Green told some uncomfortable truths, right? Some uncomfortable truths. And I usually don't agree with a lot of things that these athletes say, especially when they're speaking on these so-called social justice movements. But I must say, what Draymond Green said in response to this whole push for equal pay in sports for women was 100% facts. It was 100% on point, and it reveals an uncomfortable truth about this whole women's empowerment scheme, okay? An uncomfortable truth that, like a lot of these other social justice movements, the loudest cheerleaders are simply in it for themselves. They're not in it for the people that they say they're trying to help. Because when push comes to shove, they never put their monies where their mouth is. And Draymond Green gets to the heart of this issue. And I think that everybody should hear what he has to say. Let's take a listen.
And I was hoping people didn't take it the wrong way. Obviously, some people did, whatever. If you can't read what I said and understand, that's your personal business. But, I'm really tired of seeing them complain about the lack of pay because they're doing themselves a disservice by just complaining, and
right. They're not just complaining.
Huh?
They're not just complaining, really.
But they are, because they're not laying out steps that they can take to change that. And so it's coming off as a complaint because the people that can change it, they're just going to continue to say, well, the revenue isn't there. The revenue isn't there. So if you don't bring in the revenue, we can't up your pay. They're going to keep using that. But the reality is, as true as that is, it's an excuse because everyone says we support women. We support women empowerment. We support women in the workplace. We do this for women. We do X for women, blah, blah, blah. And everyone uses it to their advantage. Yet these women are not using these people that are saying those very things to their advantage. So then it just becomes a complaint that falls on deaf ears.
What Draymond Green is saying is that the people who talk the loudest about women's empowerment are not actually supporting women. They're not putting their money where their mouth is. Because the answer is simple. The answer is simple. If you really support women as much as you say you do, then go to their games. Pay for their merchandise. Pay for their merchandise. Go to the games. Buy tickets. Because that's the only way to increase league revenue. If the excuse is that the revenue is not there, then you know what you need to do. You need to increase the revenue. Once you increase the revenue, you'll get paid more. But see, that's the hard work. And that's the ironic part about all these athletes complaining about equal pay. It's like, you're complaining about equal pay, but your solution is basically to be subsidized by men. That's your solution. Because you don't have the revenue, which means we have to take the money from somewhere else. If we have to take the money from somewhere else, where are we going to take it from? You got to take it from the men's version of the sport. Right? Which means that you're now having men subsidize women. But I thought women were supposed to be empowered. Right? You're supposed to be able to do everything that man can do. Right? And that's not my argument. That's your argument, right? That's your argument. So I'm holding to your standards. So that means that you should be able to generate just as much revenue as men's sports. But again, guys, that's the hard work. And it really shows you where the heart of a lot of these people are at that support the so-called women's empowerment movement and the equal pay movement. When you got so much support behind this, but yet, again, the question is, why aren't people attending these games? Why aren't people attending these games? And you really ain't even got to attend the games. Why aren't people watching the games? Because you can't get a TV deal right? Or generate revenue from ads if people aren't watching the games? Why aren't people watching the games? They ain't even got to go to the game. All you do is just watch it. But people aren't watching the game. And it's funny because there's an article on ESPN that highlights this absurdity. Because it was talking about how the men's basketball budget is twice as much as the women's, which was $28 million in 2018/2019. But yet, men's basketball, NCAA basketball, bought in $865 million. Guess how much women's basketball bought in? Negative $2.8 million. They lost $2.8 million. But you're trying to tell me that there's so many people that are pro women's empowerment. All these companies are pro women's empowerment. How's that possible? If all these people out here want equal pay for women, how is that possible? Like Draymond said, a lot of these people are using the cause to enrich themselves. They're using the cause to try to virtue signal that they're for you when they're not. Because if they were for you, there's no way women's college basketball could lose $2.8 million. No way. He's right. Draymond is exactly right. That's the problem with these social justice movements. All these people claim to be for your cause. They claim to support you, but when it comes down to actually giving up some money, to actually going to a game, buying a jersey, real support, they nowhere to be found. When it comes to the sponsorships, none of that. And Draymond talked about, he didn't even go that far on Twitter in terms of how this first started. He was just talking about how, you need to get some of these corporations to push the brand and to invest in the stories and invest in the players and stuff like that. I agree with that, but I don't think that's the problem. The problem is that people just don't want to go to the games. That's the problem. And these people, again, should stop complaining like you said and actually do something, which means go to the games. Or at the very least, make the game more exciting. Find ways to make the game more exciting so more people are going to want to watch. I guess that's what Draymond was alluding to, because he was like, they need to find a way to push their stories and to set up some type of storyline for the league and basically to push the drama. Right? To push the drama. And he's on the right track. What he's saying is that make the game more entertaining. You got to try something different. But if you refuse to be stuck in this bubble where you get offended because Shaq told a WNBA player that they might want to lower the goals so they can have more dunks, then obviously you're never going to get anywhere. And you must be happy making what you make. Specifically the WNBA, whose players make a little bit less than $100,000 a year, which is, honestly, I didn't think they got paid that much. So, $100,000, I would take that, right? I would take that salary. And guys, it's the same problem with the transgender thing. That's why they're so gung-ho about having biological men compete with biological women. You know why? Because they know if you had to separate out transgender people into their own sports, which will be what the solution actually is, that will be equal for everybody, right? I don't understand how anybody can argue against that solution. Nobody should be able to argue against that, because that's equal for everybody, right? But they know if they had a whole separate transgender category for sports, the same people that are rah about them would never support it. They would never support it. They wouldn't go in any games. They wouldn't watch it. That's why they want to throw it in with biological women. That's why they want to do it. And the thing is that women that don't see how offensive this is to them, right? How offensive a lot of these movements are to the people that they claim they're trying to help. I really don't know what to tell you. Because again, these same, whether they're people, individuals, corporations, whoever, they'll go out there and say women's empowerment. Right? We fighting for women, but they're not going to support no women's sports. They're not going to go to no games. Again, same thing with the transgender thing. They'll be like, oh, we pro LGBTQ. But they don't want transgender to have their own sports because they know they have to support it. True equality is when you achieve success based off of your merits. Okay? And I want true equality for the transgender movement, and for the women's movement, right? I'm all about women's empowerment. But the best way to empower women is for them to succeed based off their own merits, right? To do something about their problem, to make their game more exciting, to market their sport better, to get people interested in watching them play, right? That's the best form of women's empowerment. Women's empowerment is not having men subsidize you just to say that you get paid equal pay. That's not how it works. That's not empowerment. It's not empowerment. Empowerment is having you do for yourself. So, you know, Draymond has a great point, man. And this is one of those rare instances where, you know, athletes speak out about something and he is 100% on point. Not just because he agrees with me, but because it's the facts, right? The gender wage gap is a myth. I already did a video on it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.